Hello, everybody. It is Thursday, the 9th of July. Want to talk about a couple of things. Want to talk about the evil that is in this world. And I want to talk about the lovers of darkness. I just had a comment from one of them again. Want to talk about that. I actually deleted that comment. It is the first time I've ever deleted a comment on my channels. But I think I shall continue doing that from now on. I want to talk about that in the end. So, but the evil that is in this world, that humanity kind of attributes to itself, saying that is the truth of humanity. We're just evil, dark entities, which I don't think it's the truth. Evil is the distortion of our truth. I've just watched John St. Julian again, and he was talking about sacrifices, about child sacrifices, and about the idea of a God that needs a sacrifice. You know, he needs to sacrifice his own son for humanity to be forgiven, that sort of thing. And that is the distortion of our truth. And that is the distortion that Jesus actually worked within himself by the way of the cross. The way of the cross is a distortion of the truth. And those that follow the crucified Jesus, those that make him Lord, are the followers of the distorted truth. Now, if I look at religion and the fruits of religion, that is to say, the solid reality that it creates, religion is always the worship of an entity, always an entity or entities that are outside of yourself and more than often not of this world. That is how they are described. Their kingdoms are not of this world, but they're trying to bring their kingdoms to earth. That's what the Bible says. Is what this entity is trying to do, to bring his kingdom to this earth and to have dominion over the earth. Now, I strongly believe that those entities exist. Yeah, we are not the only thing in existence here on this little rock, but that there are other consciousnesses that influence the affairs of man. And every time that happens, when people start worshipping otherworldly entities, that's when this shit starts happening. You know, war, destruction, sacrifices, child sacrifices. But that is actually a suppression of our own truth, or a distortion of our own truth, being led by otherworldly entities. So a return to our truth should actually lead to a better world. Because in the end, whilst we are in this world and everything is set up for survival, for, yes, first of all, the survival of the flesh, but again, it is as below, so above. It is only the depiction of a greater truth. So it is the survival of the soul through caring for one another, through nurturing one another, through being in balance with everything else that is around us. That is nature. That is the law of nature. It's balance. And everything else around us is consciousness on a different level, taking a different form. But really learning to live with others to cooperate with others for the greater good of all. That is the truth of this world. And that is the truth that should be within us, which the worship of other worldly entities will take you away from that truth, and then it creates destruction. But that is not human, that is non-human. God creates man in his own image. The entities will make man to think like them, to become like them, to act like them. You know them by their fruit. By what they are creating in this world, you can see the God that they worship. And then, yes, please feel free to judge what kind of entity it is they are following. As I said, Jesus himself, on the way of the cross, became like one of those otherworldly entities, or reverted back to, because he says he was sent from there, he came from there, so maybe for a while he was human, and then he reverted back to the truth that he was before. Let me just say this again, but in the resurrection of Lazarus was where he went off the straight human path, compromised what is human consciousness in order to serve an otherworldly entity. If he was truly led by compassion, then if your friend lies dying, you go and save him. That would be human truth, straightforward, the path of compassion. And he didn't, he let Lazarus die because it was in service to an otherworldly entity. And there's already where our own truth is being distorted. That is the path into the distortion. And the crucified Jesus was no longer human, or the resurrected Jesus was no longer human. And that what is not human will do things that are inhumane. And that is the evil in this world. I mean, they will obviously proclaim they've gone on to become something greater. Again, know them by their fruit. How great are they? All the knowledge they can gather, all the things that they can build, they're all for destruction or to enslave. You call that greatness? Anyway, so no, the evil in this world is not inherently human. It is when we suppress our truth, when we allow our truth to be distorted and become something else. And yes, I think it is by a large amount driven by otherworldly entities and those that have become attached to them, humans, that have made a connection and made a covenant with those entities. And that is religion, especially the Abrahamic religions. And that is how evil came into this world. Now, choices that we have whilst we're being here, we can choose to be human. We can choose to be our own truth and see what will come from that, no longer serving these other entities, you know, by the promise of riches and I don't know what. I mean, as I said, we can see the fruit. We can see what it leads to. You just have to open your eyes to the truth in the source, see the source, where all this crap is coming from. Because religion tells you where it's coming from. So, yeah, our choices. At the moment, it seems that humanity has been made to believe if they want to receive anything in this world, they have to be in service of those entities, have to be given of those entities. You know, you're in service to God and God will give to you. and you can do nothing for yourself. That is a teaching, and that's not true. So that is one option. You serve God and you start killing your neighbor in the name of righteousness. Or you sit and you suffer in silence. You will receive nothing because you're not receiving of those gods because you don't want to do their will. Good for you, but then the only option you have is to do without anything. And then a kind of that's the distorted way where your suffering actually becomes good, which it is not. Yeah, you say you suffer because for righteousness, for the truth, and you die upholding the truth. And that seems to be the only two options at the moment. Yeah. And then really, again, you're calling suffering good, which it is not. The third way, there is a third way. And that is actually what Jesus taught before he went on the wrong path. And that is the truth of the all. And that is that the truth is in all. Yeah, the light is within you. So you are absolutely not dependent on being given by some powerful one that is not in this world, of this world, in this world or of this world. I mean, the only way they are in this world is by you becoming their image. So that is the third way, that is to recognize the light within yourself. And then you do not have to suffer. That is what Jesus taught. That is what was the correct way, the way of belief, the way of knowing that the light is within you and that the light will give. The knowledge that everything is created by the Spirit. And by the way, you will be saved by the Spirit. That is what the book says. You will be saved by the Spirit. Follow no man, but you will be saved by the Spirit. Again, those that elevate solid Jesus as their savior, they're following a man. And they, honest to God, have not seen the Spirit of belief, the Spirit of knowing that the all is within you, which makes you completely independent, makes you have self-determination, gives you the power to determine your own reality, which is the point, as I said, I want to get to live in that truth, to be that truth. That has to become your truth. That has to be you. If it's not you, it's not going to work. It has to create you. And again, becoming powerful without losing your humanity. Because I think a lot of ones became powerful and elevated themselves again and lost their humanity, became inhumane. So there's the trick of bringing the two together, becoming powerful whilst remaining human. Now, I want to talk about the lovers of darkness. Paul said that in those days, people would become lovers of darkness. And he would have known because his teaching has in no small way contributed to the mess that we're in. Again, a distortion of the truth that was told, that the light is within you. Yeah. Now, as I said, I've just deleted some comments from my channel from a lover of darkness. I've known her for a few years now, and she absolutely is a lover of darkness. Making comments like, well, you cannot manifest your desire because it is all made up. Yeah, it's all a lie. It's not real. Saying it was brought into this world by drunks like Neville Goddard. I mean, really spiteful. She's a very spiteful person. Venomous. She is that. But again, that is the truth. What comes out of us is what is within us, and it's pure darkness and venom. Yes, haven't become a lover of darkness, haven't become the darkness, and haven't become a lover of darkness. That is a choice. That is a choice a person can make. They can become that. Up to them. If they love it, let them be. If that is their happiness and we're free in pursuit of happiness, then well, I guess they've got the right to be that. Now, of course, the one argument you can put against that is this has not been in this world since Neville Goddard. This is a very, very old teaching, extremely old teaching, long before. And it also, you can also point to evidence in this world, solid evidence, things that have happened, miracles. Let's call them miracles, for the lack of a better word, but miracles have happened. Miracles have happened to those that believed. So you can't, again, there's the spirit that creates solid reality, and you can point to solid outcomes as evidence of the spirit, because you cannot see the spirit that has created the outcome. That is why spirit is spirit. You cannot see it, but you know it by its fruit, by the outcome. So you can point to evidence all over this world. Of course, they don't want to hear that. Again, that there's ignorance that will reject the light. They will not go by evidence. And here's that you cannot argue with people like that. That is really the point, because they are Mephisto, really, you know. Ich bin der Geist, der stets vermeint. I am the spirit that always speaks against. Always. Yeah? And that is the spirit they are. They are the spirit of Mephisto. Good as Mephisto. And they will not move. See, there is something like constructive criticism or constructive speaking against. And if it's constructive, it is truth. And it is actually light. Yeah? And I've got nothing against that. In fact, it is helpful. Both for and against can be helpful if it is constructive and in service of the overriding goal that you want to reach. But what they're doing is not constructive. It is just darkness and venom for the sake of it. And they will not move. And again, what they are saying is the truth within them. It is not that they just speak venomous things, they are venomous. That is their truth, that is their being. And they will not move. So you cannot argue with them. All they will try to do is drag you to that place where they are at. They have no interest of getting out of it themselves, because they love it. They're lovers of their darkness. Again, it says in the book, if they do not join you, if they do not receive what you are saying joyfully, if they are not of one mind with yourself, walk away. Shake the dust off your sandals and walk away, and that is all you can do. Now, as I said, they have a right to be what they are. I mean, they've been shown other ways, they've been shown other ideas, they've rejected them. And if they want to be what they are, then let them be. They have a right to do so. And in extension to that, they may even have the right to speak the venom that is within them. If there's freedom of speech, yeah. Then they should have the right to express their twisted darkness, at least in words. But at the same time, you have the right not to let it in. Yeah. If you are in pursuit of a goal of revealing a truth within yourself, then, as I said, constructive criticism you can let in, but this speaking against for the sake of it, you don't have to let that in into your space. You do not have to engage with people like that. Yeah, it is not the case you have to love everybody. You don't. You can walk away from those that insist of being what they are and insist on not changing. So, first of all, you have the right not to let the words get within yourself, which is quite hard, especially when you're taught this blinking thing of compassion that you need to be open to everything. You don't. You don't. There are those that cannot be saved. Walk away. And that's their choice. They made a choice. And then by extension, again, and here comes my channel, if I don't let it into my mind, into my thinking, by extension, I have the right to not have their comments on my channel, which is why I've now deleted them. And I will now continue to do so. This is my space. This is my quest. Join me or don't join me, but I will only allow that on my channel, which is in service to the quest. And that is my right. And I will do that. So, yes, to find that truth within you, the truth that will set you free. The truth that means you have the power to determine your own life. And you do not either have to love your suffering or declare your suffering to be good, because it's not. And the only way to achieve something is by being in service to those otherworldly entities or those that are doing their bidding. Those are not the only two choices you've got. You need to go the way of the truth within you. There is light, and that light can be expressed in this world, and that light will manifest. The technique, I think, is the bit that is missing here. How to do it correctly. I mean, it has to be 100% faith. There can be no doubt. And it is your struggle with doubt to overcome that doubt. And I'm still struggling for that. And I'm not going to be moved from this path. Not by what is happening to me in the physical. I've just run out of oil again behind me. Every time I'm getting somewhere, I'm being knocked back, but I'm not going to give up. I mean, in the end, what else will I do while I'm here? You know, gives you something to do whilst you're in life. So, yes, see the truth within you. It is actually good. Do not compromise that truth because you think it's the only way of getting somewhere. It's not. And yeah, good luck to all of us. I hope we get there. Now, let me just say this, because I'm thinking about my channel and about the things I'm saying, and I'm not really getting anywhere again. But this darkness, this wrong thinking is creating the energy in this world. Well, not nature as a whole, although nature is affected on the material outcome level. Yes, definitely. But they're not in that energy. But we are creating it, and it's very strong in this world. And I think that's one of those things, as long as that is the overriding energy all around you, it's very hard to go up against that. So for the individual to shift to a higher place of consciousness, which doesn't mean out of this world, but in this world, it would be helpful if the overall energy would shift. And I think those that are now trying to shift it will make it easier for those that follow, because they will not have to struggle against this really dark energy that is all around them. And this is really what these channels should do. You know, dispel the darkness, make the whole a bit more light, so it becomes easier to rise through it. Anyway, here, I leave it at that for today. And I talk to you again soon. Bye.